Welcome to the Brain Injury Association Waterloo-Wellington Survivor Speaker Series. Tonight, Paul is going to talk to us. Paul Cleve is going to talk about his injury. Paul is a retired or former firefighter, and so he'll talk about what that means to his recovery. And anybody who has questions, please put them in the chat, and take it away, Paul.
All right, hope everybody's doing well. I guess I'll just share what took place and then how I dealt with it after. So as mentioned, I was a firefighter for 20 years, and I was cleaning the top of the truck one day and I slipped off and I fell on my head. Excuse me. I cracked my skull and I severed an artery, and it was all internal. I fractured my clavicle in 4 pieces. So I was taken to the hospital. I was still conscious, but repeating the same question over and over again, not being aware of what's going on. And I went to the hospital in my city, and they don't do head injuries. So I spent 6 hours in the hospital before they transported me to a different hospital. And during that time, my head artery filled blood in my skull and pushed my brain over to the side a little. So I went into a coma and then in life support for a bit, and I was in a coma for a week. They removed this half of my head to prevent the brain from swelling, because if it doesn't get that release, the only place it has to go is down the spinal column, so that it's not a good sign. Anyway, so after my coma, I came out. My left arm was paralyzed for about a year, and it was broken in about, like I said, 4 pieces for about 5 weeks before that got put together. And it was about 3 months I had no bone on this half of my head. I had several surgeries where they replaced the old bone on my head, and they put it in with 3 screws, and one of them popped out. So if I'd cough or sneeze, the bone would move up and down. I'd have to hold it with my hand, but I couldn't use this one because it was paralyzed. So I had a bunch of surgeries, 7 altogether, to get that fixed. And now this half of my head's all titanium. But anyway, it's good. So after a year of working and doing physiotherapy, I found playing guitar was the best thing to get my hand back in motion and regain the function of it. And it's pretty much 100% back now. So this took me about, I guess I had surgeries for 3 years, and probably took me about 4 years to, I guess, to really get back. So I started doing yoga, besides doing some physio, and I found that the only one that can take responsibility is myself for my health, whether it's a physical or mental. And the physical health was certainly an issue, but the mental health was the hardest struggle with the brain injury, and I'm sure anybody who's had those types of injuries might have some sort of familiarity with that. So I used yoga for 2 reasons: to heal the body and to heal the mind. So I found that the perspective that helps me most is understanding that I'm separate from the mind and separate from my body, and the problems that are causing me to have mental issues are coming from the mind, either from my imagination or from my memory, and I'm locking onto them. I'm putting my focus there. So I was also diagnosed with bipolar and PTSD from 20 years of firefighting. It's a good job, but you spend your whole time watching people suffer, and it's a little tough sometimes. So, and sometimes the consequences are, because they're starting to pay attention to mental health now, in regards to PTSD, but sometimes we make bad choices, and I was one of them. So I had an addiction problem, you know, to try to help cope. I also working, you know, there's several things besides that people can have addictions to, besides alcohol and so forth. So because of the bipolar and the PTSD and the addiction problem, I already had this predisposed struggle with the mind that I was working on. So I went to an addiction program, and to help with that, which is very awesome, and it did help. But after getting out of that, I was at work 1 week before I fell off the top of the truck and was in a life support in a coma. And since everything was broken, and I didn't want to get another addiction. The whole time I went through this, I took no pain medication, so I didn't want to have another struggle. So the mind was enough to struggle. So when it comes to the mind, I found that head injuries can create a lot of depression. They can create a lot of struggle. They can create a lot of obstacles. But we can understand that we have a choice sometimes to face these obstacles. And we can even take the responsibility on our own to face these obstacles. And yes, medication does help. But if we understand, and this is my perspective again, like I'm saying, if I'm separate from my mind and my body, my subconsciousness is what's making me suffer. So I go through my life, like most of us, 80% of the time subconsciously. I'm not really here. I got thoughts and going on. And if we have an unhealthy subconsciousness, which most of us do, like if it's 60% unhealthy, we go through life not happy. We go through life miserable. Or not all the time, but we can be predisposed to taking that if we have that subconscious. So our mind wants to know what we are. So it creates an ego. It creates an identity that we give it a name, we attach to it. And we believe that that is us. And whatever's taking place, that's us. But the mind creates lots of egos. It creates an ego when we're alone. It creates an ego when we're with our friends. It creates an ego when we're at work. It creates an ego that makes us think that we're not our ego. And when we have an ego, we have beliefs and we have understandings, and they create our behavior. So if I don't have healthy beliefs, or if my beliefs making me suffer, my behaviors are going to suffer. It's going to make me suffer. It's going to not give me that peace. So if I can question my subconsciousness, and I'm sure maybe some of you have heard of cognitive behavior therapy. We're going along and the mind is causing us to suffer or unpleasant. So we step back, and using the breath work, when we focus on the breath, that makes the division of the mind where we can stop focusing on the mind when we're just focusing on the breath. Our mind only tells the body to engage. It doesn't tell it to relax. So when we go through events in life, our body's always engaged. Unless we take the time to consciously breathe and relax. If I asked you right now, can you relax your shoulders? That just tells me it's engaged right now. So there's a vagus nerve on our brain, and it comes out and it goes to all the organs and the glands. And the way the mind talks to the body is through these glands. It secretes a chemical. Cortisol, if it's afraid, oxytocin, love, and so forth, epinephrine, all sorts of things. So that's how the mind talks to the body, by giving it a chemical. So whatever our mind is, whatever our mind is thinking, it's going to create those types of chemicals that relate to it. And it's going to cause glands to do different things. It's going to cause heart race. It's going to cause things to shut off so we can focus on different areas. So this vagus nerve is our subconsciously, it's always thinking, okay, I'm in fight or flight, fight or flight, fight or flight. So if we can take this a step back and use cognitive behavior therapy to bring ourselves, okay, I don't need to be in fight or flight. I can take my breath and I can sit and I can be at ease and I can allow my body to relax. I can consciously allow my body to relax. I can consciously reduce or not pay attention to thoughts that are making me struggle, like whatever the self-judgment or whatever the issues are. So when we realize that we're using cognitive behavior therapy to make ourselves better, to get us through the day, we need to take another step back. What is my thought style? that is making me have to use cognitive behavior therapy? Why am I, what's my thought that I'm always thinking or thinking that's making me upset that I have to keep telling myself to relax and bring my body to a peace? And there's different ones, and then we have many of them. A hypervigilant one, I'm going to spend my time thinking I'm in danger and I'm going to look for it. And that's my thought style. And I'll look for something to support that. And then bring, okay, here are good chemicals to support it. Okay, good. And that becomes a habit to us. And the body says, we need this, we need this. That's what we get all the time. So if we make a change to be at peace and to be happier and get different chemicals, the body can say, this is weird, this is odd, this is different things. So when you start changing your thought, you have to go through these emotions, and you can't change without and be different without going through these things. If you've ever clasped your hands together and then moved your fingers down a couple, you get that odd sensation. That feels odd. If you take the perception, that odd sensation is growth. It's a new experience. It's something my mind's processing. It's creating a circuit in there for me to focus on. So if I know that odd sensation is me making a change, it's me going and growing, then we can sit back and say, oh, there's no need to me be as afraid of it or concerned about it. Becoming aware of that, becoming aware of what I think. Do I have a judgmental thought style? I just go around looking at comparing, and I judgmental towards myself as well. So we have to question. And a lot of times these behaviors come from the negative ones come from childhood behavior, childhood trauma, because we kind of pick up our subconsciousness. Our subconsciousness is given to us by our caregivers, by our friends as we grow up to the age of like 8 from our birth. We learn this is what happens, this is our belief. People tell us stuff and we believe it, we attach to it, and we don't even question it. Okay, we continue on life, not questioning a belief that's making us suffer. So if we can sit back and use the breath to stop thought, we can question what the thought style is. And I'm not saying that there's not bad thought styles. There's also pleasant thought styles, gratitude, service, love. But some of them can be caused by childhood trauma too, like people pleasing and love. So it's becoming aware of the thought style and the beliefs that we have, and saying, why do I have that belief? Can I let this belief go? Because I don't need to hold that on. Our mind, our brain, is neurons, and the purpose of them is to store information and transmit information. Our body has neurons, just as many as a dog. So our body has the intelligence of a dog, and that's how it communicates. That's how the body remembers how to perform an action. It has a repetitive motion because the neurons tell the fingers to behave this way because the habit it's taken. The body can touch something hot and pull away before the mind knows. So the body has its own awareness. And if we can shut down the ego and tell us, let's just focus on the body, because the body will talk to us as well. The body can talk to the mind, the body can talk to us. So it's a matter of where we can put our focus. And if we can understand that we can remove our focus from the mind, we can remove our focus from thought by breath work, taking 5 minutes, set a clock for 5 minutes and just focus on your breath. Not even counting numbers, because when you start counting, you're using the mind to count, because you're using a memory, you're using a habit, you're using a belief. So when we can just focus on the breath, nice and slow, and if we exhale longer than inhaling, that is a sign to our body that tells our mind that we're safe, and it sends the chemicals to say, okay, the body is at ease, there's no need for fight or flight. So we can work on being more at peace. The thing about this is, we can't assign, because sometimes what makes us suffer is, I should be here, I should be there. One of the things that the ego does, it seeks. It says, I should be in this spot right now, I should be in that. I should be doing what that person's doing. Meanwhile, if you go to that person, they have their level that they want to go to. So there's no destination. All there is a path. And we can choose right now to be whatever path we want to be on. We can start right now on this path, and it's just a practice. It's just a matter of just practicing what we want. There's another thing called theater of the mind, where we go back to a memory, This is neuro-linguistic programming, and we can use it for several ways. We go to the mind, and we go to a memory when, say, we were upset at somebody, and we go to that person's point of view, and we watch us be upset at ourselves, knowing the feeling that we're having, watching our face reaction, watching our body reaction. Because our thought styles, like I mentioned, have a posture. Like I'm angry or sad or whatever, people are going to choose that. The body's going to remember, the neurons are going to remember that posture for that particular emotion. So if we go to an emotion or a memory that we were angry at and watch us react, and we can say, hey, as non-judgmental, not saying, oh, I wish I hadn't done that, or I wish I would have done this, or this, not judgmental towards ourselves, just strictly as an observer to become aware, because then you get a much clearer focus, just being an observer. Because when you judge, you're using part of your focus to have memory to compare. So we can just observe. We sit and we can take it all as much in. We can say, you know what, I like it when I do that. I don't like when I do that. And when things come up in the future, we can say, I remember how I reacted. I'm going to take a pause and I'm going to choose what I really like to do. We can also use neuro-linguistic behavior to go to our mind to pick a happy feeling, go to a happy memory. And that we let that memory, any memories that have to do with love are great. And love is all around us. It's here and it's available to us. We just choose to ignore it if we don't feel it, because it's there. It doesn't go away. So if we can choose a memory that gives a feeling of love to us, then we can just say, okay, forget the memory. I just want to focus on that feeling. Now focus on that feeling of love, become aware of it. Let it become something that you're familiar with. Become familiar with that feeling. And the more you practice on becoming familiar with it, the faster you can go to it. If you need to, the next time we start to ignore it, we can get back there. And also it's like a seed. It starts to grow. The more we focus on it, the more time we spend on it, the more that feeling of love or whatever feeling that we choose to can get larger. So this is just a matter of practice. And it's a matter of saying, you know, it's okay that today I'm not good. You know, I can't be good every day. This is okay. This is acceptable. One of the biggest struggles that I found for me was self-love. And it's something that's so important. And it's an unconditional love. And it's also something that we can ignore. But there's no on or off switch. I don't have love or I don't have love. It's just a flow of amount of energy. Is it growing or is it shrinking? So the more we focus on it, the more we become aware of it, the more we become familiar with it, when we can use our breath work with it to get to a deeper relax. And then we can say to our subconsciousness, when I talk about being normal, I want to remember this feeling. This is the feeling I want to be. I want to feel this feeling right now whenever I say this is what my norm should be, not fight or flight or whatever it might be. Get familiar with the feeling and say, this is where I want to stay, and get that habit and create that habit. And it takes practice, but there's no deadline. It's just a path. There's no place you need to be. The issue is, if you're finding that you're suffering, that is a clear signal that you're identifying with the mind and attaching yourself to a memory or attaching yourself to some sort of imagined future thing or whatever it may be, future concerns. And I'm not saying that they're not worthy of paying attention to, or it's just a matter of choosing how to react to it. I can't remember the yoga saying that goes with that now. But anyway, so I found that taking those steps, and another thing is, I recommend yoga. I teach yoga, and I recommend going online and using it, because our mind holds anxiety and our body can hold anxiety. And if we don't take the time to stretch the body out and use the body, that energy stays contained in those neurons. That energy, that memory, that information just stays there. And if we don't choose to relax and release it, it stays there. And the body's tense And the mind will be busy doing something else, and it'll say, oh, the body's tense. What's going on? The body's saying, I'm tense, I'm tense. And then mind will look for a reason to support the body being tense. Oh, you had this problem. You had okay, good. Okay, we're set then. Good. Instead of saying, oh, you're tense, are you? Okay, let's stop and we'll breathe and we'll get some of that tension out of us and collect ourselves. There's an exercise that I found very helpful. And one of the issues with the brain injury for me is maintaining focus and concentration. Currently, my brain is still not midline. My left frontal lobe has atrophied by 15%. And my left hippocampus has also shrunk, which is related to emotion and memory. I still have scarring from the bleed and some pockets of there's ventricles in the brain, like air pockets where I have spinal fluid in there. So it took me a long time and a lot of hard work, but it's worth it if you're the only thing that you have. And if you're fortunate enough to have the time to look in and understand, because I believe that everybody on this planet has the first main purpose, and that is to get to know themselves, to get to know their body, to get to know their subconsciousness. When I say get to know your body, like I mean like we treat our body like an iPhone. We know some of the apps, but we don't know all of it. If I asked you, how many glands do you have? What is a gland? You know what I mean? What's the purpose of them? Like, how much do we know? Are we taking the time, or are we relying on somebody else to let us know about our body? So these things that, if you have injuries that you have concern about, take the time to look in or ask or become aware of what's going on. Do the research on your own, ask questions, and you might not get what you want, but you might head someplace you not even expect or find something, and a lot of healing comes from that. And I'm not saying it's not hard, but when you find these emotions, the best thing and pretty much the only thing to do is to go through them, sit in them, recognize them. That's a part of you. Don't give it a judgment as, okay, this is a bad thing, or try to not give it as much of a bad judgment. Just sit in it and just feel it, and that will start to dissipate and go away, and you'll become more comfortable and more at ease. The more we can focus on being at peace with our mind and peace with our body, we bring that into our life. We bring peace into our life. And this gets back to breathing. When we do our breath, we can set an intention. We can set an intention of focusing on peace and love as we inhale. And then we bring that feeling into our present. So we can also use the breath to move energy, to relax the body, to allow the body just to sink. And you might try relaxing the body and you feel that odd sensation and you say, oh, don't go there, that's odd. But understanding that's growth. When you feel an odd sensation in the body relaxing, you're heading in the right direction. You're becoming aware. You're allowing the body to release. You're allowing the body to heal itself, because if our ego vulnerability is preventing our body from doing any twitching or relaxing because of concerns of vanity, we're preventing the body from healing. If we just allow the body just to sit and focus on it and just becoming aware on it, the body can start to heal on its own. The body knows how to do these things if we can allow it to take place. And sure, also medical intervention is required sometimes. I'm saying that the more we become aware of our body and issues that we have with our body, the better our life's going to be, and the better we can heal from these issues. So anyway, that's about all. So I just repeat, my injury was 8 years ago. So.
Okay, so there are a couple of questions that have come in. So if anyone else that has a question, please send that to me. The first is around support. How, like in 8 years, have you done this all yourself? Do you have a support network, or how was that helpful in your recovery?
That's a good question. I'm one of those types of people that doesn't rely on anybody. It's a trauma response that I've come to learn that I can't rely, or I have trouble I'm more of just give and not allow myself. And that comes with not loving yourself. once I've learned to start to love myself, I was open to having support, and I could recognize the benefit that that would give. So I would say if you're open to support, take it. But the most important thing is when we're doing a support is to recognize how it's making us feel. Am I feeling better from it? Is it causing me issues that I need? Is it bringing up things I need to work on? Is this healthy for me? Do I need to take my time and maybe not do so much? Do I need to go more? So it's about, if you're going to reach out for help, becoming aware how the help is affecting you. And I'm saying there's a lot of good help. I don't mean to say that it's not. It's just I've found that with a brain injury, it may take a little more time to get the focus, because it could be over focusing on something can cause more suffering and other health problems if we're not taking the time to look after how our body's reacting to this help that we're getting. I would say that'd be important.
Great, thank you. What about the whole discussion around yoga? When did you start to get into yoga in terms of the timeline? Who introduced you to yoga, and how did you learn that and become, your current beliefs in that practice?
All right, sure. Maybe about 9 years ago, or maybe a year or two before my injury, one of the guys at work brought in a DVD we'd have a workout, and we did some yoga. I'd never heard of it before. So I enjoy it though, because when I completed, I could feel the difference. I could feel that my body and my mind were better. Like I could see the benefits of doing this. And it's a matter of how much time you're putting into it, how much you're going to get out of it. So the thing about yoga, it's not about poses. There's 8 elements to yoga. The ultimate goal is to be inner peace. Doing poses is only the number 3rd step. There's about breathing and working on energies. There's meditation. Meditation is so important. When we can stop thinking and just meditate, and just be, it's been scientifically proven that our genes have a little tail that hangs on them that kind of dictates our longevity in life. And they took people and they made them meditate for 3 months, and after that, the tail had grown by 20%. So that's what I'm saying. When we're in meditation and we allow the body to do what it wants, to put the time in to heal. If we were in meditation, we allow the mind to heal. We let it to be at peace and ease. These looking inward, because there's so many different styles of yoga depending on what you want to get. There's yoga of just playing music, there's yoga of dancing, there's power yoga, there's relaxing yoga, there's inward thinking yoga. So there's many things that you can look, there's many tools, and it's good to try different ones because they have different results and that lead to different effects. So but like I said, I spent the first probably 6 years or so by myself before I started reaching out for help, kind of thing. So I was in the hospital for a coma for a week, and I was in there for maybe a day or 2 more. Then I went home because I didn't find it was a very relaxing place to spend my time. So anyway.
So just staying on that yoga theme then, specifically, I have quite a few questions around what type of yoga, because there's, as you say, there's lots of different yoga practices. So which did you find the most helpful for a brain injury? And I think the other question is around, that's what I just had, exactly that question. And were you doing a combination of that and CBT? Or did you find that one worked better than the other at a certain point in your recovery?
Well, I find that the more tools that you can pick up and gain and understand how those tools work to you, that you can choose one that fit different situations. I teach yoga. I have some on YouTube. I can give you a post if you'd like. I like yin yoga, it's called, because it deals with the mind and the body. Basically, yin yoga is just resting in a pose for about 4 or 5 minutes, just allowing you stretch till you reach your edge. And as you sit there, the edge fades away. And then you can go deeper into the stretch to your next edge. And then you breathe it away, and then you go to the next edge. And just as those edges in the body take place, you go to those edges in your mind where I'm struggling, and you become comfortable with it, you become aware of it, and then you can go deeper and take that next edge in the mind and work on that obstacle and struggle, or let go, or focus, or whatever you need to do, or just be, just sit in meditation, not thinking anything, whatever you want to direct your focus, even just becoming aware of, where am I directing my focus? Am I directing my focus to my subconsciousness all the time? Am I always busy thinking about things I got to do? Or is my focus more in the present? And people say, how do I become more aware of the present? How can I make myself in the present? Because I go to the present, and next thing, 2 minutes later, I'm back in the mind. And the way to take that approach is understand that there's no place you need to be. It's a practice. And whenever you're doing something, give 100% attention to what is the current task in front of you. And then your mind learns to your consciousness learns to stay out of the mind and subconsciousness while it's giving 100% attention to what it's doing in front of it. And then that habit takes over. And the more you can stay present, whether you're meditating or being aware of what you're doing, the more the body's going to be relaxed, because when we bring ourselves into the present, we tend to be more at peace instead of being in the mind, thinking about memories and future anxieties.
Great, thank you. 2 more questions here. As a firefighter, you were pretty physically fit, I would assume. How did you handle the fact that you couldn't maybe maintain that physical fitness right after your injury? What are some techniques that maybe you had to develop in order to replace that physicalness of the job?
2 things. The first one is acceptance that this is where I am right now. This is not permanent. I'm here right now, but I doesn't mean I'm going to stay here. And the second thing is to try to put your energy into yourself, put that love into yourself, put that time into yourself. If you have the time, put it into you, to healing. So when you try to heal, you start to heal. So becoming, just like I can say to you, your mood right now might not, and likely wasn't the same as it was a couple hours ago or a couple of days ago. So we know that we change, we're fluid. So we can sit back and accept, this is where I am. It's going to make the healing so much better for us. And it's going to make it so much better for us because it kind of removes an obstacle or a struggle that we think we need to be somewhere, or we think I'm not good enough, or whatever it may be. We can just get rid of that belief, or get rid of that thought pattern, get rid of that, and just focus on the present, saying, okay, this is where I am right now, and put the effort into, I'm just going to try whatever I need to do, whatever I need, whether it's, moving a hand or moving a head around, just sitting around, taking the time to and then become aware of what your actions are doing to you, as it, and so you can understand the benefits that you can receive.
Great, thank you. What about WSIB? Were you supported by, how did your financial or infrastructure support you post injury? And there's a couple people on this call I know who are struggling with that. So any thoughts or comments around that support that you received or didn't receive?
Certainly. For my job, if I wasn't able to return to work after 2 years, they were able to let me go. So I tried to go back to work for about 3 months, and I couldn't take it. I was still in between surgeries, actually. Just sitting in the office job. But I'd fallen down a set of stairs and I'd shatter these bones before they put titanium on it, and they were all just fine little smaller bones. And so I'd be talking or eating, and you could hear them rubbing together and crunching, making crunching noises. So, so it's just becoming aware. Okay, this is where I am right now, and put the effort into helping myself. So WSIB was helpful in the fact that if I approached them and said, I have this issue, I talked to my, I can't remember the lady that was looking after me. I can't remember her title of work, sorry. They were pretty good at getting me some help, but I know there's different levels of WSIB because I was in a coma. It's assigned a different level of attention apparently, or something like that. So right now I'm on WSIB, and yeah, I'm being covered, 65 for that kind of thing, and it's going all right. After 2 years, they made a decision that I wasn't able to return to work, and from that time, WSIB gives you 6 years to have your case open. And after 6 years from that, to see if things change or not, they close your case and you're pretty much done with them. But you can call them up if your situation changes after the 6 years, you can certainly call them up and say, because of this injury or this, they can open up the file again, but WSIB won't open it after 6 years.
Okay, great. Any other questions before I turn the recording off? I've just seen there's another one here. No, that's just been asked. Okay, so Paul, any other thoughts before I close this down, or?
I just hope it was helpful. One thing I wanted to say, people call it mental illness, and I prefer to call it a mental unawareness, because when we become aware that we can get control of the mind and understand it and learn about it, we can make incredible life changes and heal and change. So I just want to, and I hope everybody is doing well. Anyway, wish everybody luck.
Okay, great. Well, thank you. I'm going to stop the recording now.